What is one of the largest problems plaguing America today, and how am I doing my little part to change the statistics? Welcome to Pause Journal, and this is going to be the week 2 wrap up on how things are going on my weight loss journey, and hopefully I can pass along a little bit of knowledge to some of the folks that might be watching this and hopefully help them on their journey. According to the CDC, as of 2023, 40.3% of adults in the United States suffer from obesity. Now, 23 states report that more than 35% of the adults in their populations suffer from obesity. So that, in my mind, is approaching epidemic status. Now, for those that have been following along already, I'm doing my little part to try and get my weight down. And really, it was in some of my research that brought me to the conclusion that I needed to do something about this for me personally. So I did some more digging because I want to make sure that I've got the facts in my mind that are going to keep me on track. Obviously, we have the first thing that kind of kicked this all off. For those that have watched the previous videos, you know that my doctor said that I've got high blood pressure. I am in what they call phase 2 hypertension, or hypertension stage 2, sorry. That's because my blood pressure, when I went into the doctor the last time, on the 3rd, my blood pressure was 142 over 102. Now, we've already dug into the blood pressure a little bit, so I'm not going to recap all that. Needless to say, it's high. The normal should be 120 over 80. Some of the things that you need to understand about obesity that I didn't quite understand, even though I've been a big old fellow for, well, my entire life. Some of the medical conditions that are associated with obesity are pretty scary as well. You've got cardiovascular disease, and that could be heart disease, that could be a stroke, it could be high blood pressure. You've got type 2 diabetes that is a huge problem in the United States and becoming even larger across the whole globe at this point. There's certain cancers that are directly tied to obesity, such as breast cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer. Gallbladder and liver cancer are associated with obesity. You've got what people consider to be smaller problems like sleep apnea, but you also have things like osteoarthritis, gallbladder disease, fatty liver disease is a huge one. They call it non-alcohol related fatty liver disease because apparently you need to differentiate those two. But I mean, if it's destroying your liver and it's going to kill you, we can keep it short. You've got kidney disease. There's mental health issues associated with obesity because as people tend to get larger, they become more of an introvert. They start suffering from depression and anxiety due to self-image issues, especially with the teasing and cyberbullying. And then you've got increased risk of pregnancy complications, a whole bunch of other things that aren't even really listed in the medical causes. You've got mobility issues, and then you've got the annoying little things like trying to find clothes that you can fit into, trying to get on carnival rides or amusement park rides if you're a bigger person. Now, according to the American Journal of Public Health, they did a study and found that long-term weight loss is pretty challenging for folks. So their study showed that 1% of people with a BMI over 40, so in my case, that puts me above 270 pounds, and my current BMI is 43, 1% of those people have the likelihood of dropping their BMI below 25. As we talked about in the previous video, when I showed you the BMI chart, that means that I'd have to get my weight down to 160. That 1% of going from BMI 40 to BMI 25 is in a 5-year period of time. Now, one thing that they do say that I guess is a little bit of a bright light in a dark tunnel is that 1 in 5 adults can drop their weight by 5%. So 15 pounds-ish. The realization or the reality of the situation is that of those 1 in 5 that drop that 15 pounds, chances are, depending on how they did it, they're going to end up putting back on 25 pounds. And that just makes the problem worse than where they started. So as I was going through some of my research, I wanted to understand more about, how the fat was affecting my body, because I was under the impression that it's just, just the chunky bits on the outside, the belly, what they call the subcutaneous fat, basically the fat just under your skin. And come to find out, that's really not the biggest problem. I mean, that, causes increased size, but there's another type of fat called visceral fat that is absolutely horrifying. I was watching a video by Institute of Human Anatomy, and the doctor on there was talking about, he actually opened up a cadaver, and I'll put up an image of it here. He was showing the visceral fat inside of this cadaver, and there is a block of fat around the heart. How is your heart supposed to function properly if it is encased in a wall of fat? It was absolutely horrifying. That in itself, aside from the blood pressure, I think has almost 100% solidified my resolve in achieving my goal of getting down to 200 pounds and taking my BMI from 44, where I started, to about 200 pounds, 15% body fat, so closer to that right at 25 BMI number. A couple other sciencey facts here. So increased weight in men lowers testosterone production, as well as the fact that your testosterone naturally lowers as you age. As you get older, so when you get to my age, 50, your testosterone is now at about 50% of what it was when you were in your 20s, or when I was in my 20s. So even naturally, if I was at a healthy weight, I would be at 50% testosterone. And then you pile the obesity on top of that, and now you've got a situation where the testosterone is getting even lower than it was before. So when your testosterone goes down, you lose drive to get up and do things, to go out and fight to achieve your goals. So in general, the obesity on top of the lowering testosterone, you're just making things even worse for yourself if you continue to let the obesity worsen. So let's talk a little bit about some nerdy math, because, I'm a computer nerd by trade. One of the things that I like to do, other than digging into some of the science and specifics behind the problems that plague me, whether the problem is, a construction problem, a mechanical problem, something wrong with one of my cars, or in this case, something wrong with my body. Not really something wrong with my body, but something wrong with my habits that has created something wrong with my body. A problem of my own making. All right, so let's take this fat math and let's play with it a little bit. My basal metabolic rate, so in other words, the rate at which my body burns calories if I never get out of bed, is 2100 or thereabouts. So as I go throughout my day, it's roughly about 2700 by the time I figure in the activities and work and all that other stuff. 2 pounds of fat could actually power my body for 3 days without any food. One of the fears, or one of the struggles that a lot of people have when they're dealing with being overweight, is the idea of being hungry. And for some of us, if you grew up and you had some harder times, you spent some time hungry as a child, that's always a thing in the back of your mind. You don't like to be hungry because you grew up not always knowing where your next meal was coming from. So I dug into this a little bit more for myself. With the BMI of 18, which would be healthy around 150 pounds, what they consider to be out of the overweight and obese categories, that means that I have nearly 140 pounds of extra weight. So if we do the fat math on that, that means I have 490,000 calories stored up in my frame. What that means is I could actually go about 240 days or 8 months without eating another single calorie. So I no longer have to worry about starving to death. So I wanted to get some of that information out to you folks, and I also wanted to do the update for the end of week 2. So one of the things that I like to do for those of you that are following along on this journey, and one of the things that I've been promising y'all is I've been promising you some photos. And so I'm going to put those up, and I'll tell you, it was, they're not pretty. And it's, as a bigger person, we're not very photogenic most of the time, which is really weird sitting here talking on YouTube. But it's important that people can see the progress. Not only that, but it's important that I can go back and see the progress should I ever hit a stumbling point where I can't quite remember why I'm doing this. I mentioned that I've been tracking my numbers, and I have a Notion page that I'm going to put up. I'll put that down in the description. All right, so let's talk a little bit about where I am as of the weigh-in this morning. So for those of you that have been following along, I started off at 297.2. And as of this morning, I am 290.4 pounds. So at this point, I'm basically down 6.8 pounds, almost 7 pounds. We'll call it 7, makes me feel better inside. My overall energy level is fantastic. 12 days, almost 2 weeks in, down almost 7 pounds. So we're above the original goal of losing about 2.25 pounds a week. I'm slightly bigger, so I could go over that 1 to 2 pound per week, the safe weight loss limit that they talk about, that you want to lose at my weight is about 3.5 pounds as a max. And we're going to keep going at this. We're just about 2 weeks in, and I'm going to continue to do weekly updates as I learn things along the way. I'm sure there was some really interesting factoids I was going to put in here, but in general, I'm feeling pretty fantastic about the progress. I will say that I fired up a gym membership. I thought about buying a treadmill, and a decent little walking pad was about $200, and I was able to get a Planet Fitness. Hold the hate. I know some people aren't Planet Fitness fans, but it was inexpensive. And I was able to get me and my youngest son in there. So it's going to allow me to get some of my steps in. Right now I'm targeting going after about 10,000 steps. And depending on who you talk to, if I just did 10,000 to 12,000 steps over, the next 9 months or so that we've got left here, I should easily be able to drop the remaining 90 pounds to get below 200. So we'll see how that goes. I stepped on the treadmill for the first time today, and it actually felt pretty good. I can't lie. Get the blood pumping, get the nice warm fuzzies just right there on the verge of sweating, but you're moist, but you're not really sweating. I don't know. That might be gross for some people, but it was pretty energetic for me. It was good to feel it. So, I'll throw in some little treadmill action here, but did about 30 minutes on the treadmill, kind of starting off slow, did about 1.5 miles. I'm trying to pick that up because that really only got me about 4,000 steps. So I'm going to have to increase my mileage on the treadmill, maybe do it a little bit faster, trying to keep my heart rate in what they call zone 2, so about 40% above your rested heart rate, because that's supposed to be the optimal location to burn fat. If you've had your own struggles with weight, or if you're on your own weight loss journey, put those comments down below and let's have a conversation about them. I am more than happy to provide words of encouragement, or if you've got words of encouragement for me, I am more than welcome to accepting words of encouragement from the community around us. And let's do this together. Let's get a bunch of people changing the obesity statistics. I've been watching a lot of Jelly Roll over the last couple of years. Irregardless of what you think about him as a person, he did the Two Bears 5K marathon and accomplished that at over 500 pounds. And now he is in the process of prepping to do it again. And I don't know that I'm going to go out and do a 5K, although with enough treadmill time, I'm sure that I could. but I definitely want to continue to follow his example, and not only that, but be an example myself for my kids and for other people around the world, showing them that it is possible for a legitimately lifelong obese person to get down to a healthy weight and change from having high blood pressure, being morbidly obese, being in line for this long list of obesity related diseases, and to actually get to a healthy weight and to keep it there for the rest of his life. If you like what you've seen so far, feel free to subscribe. Please comment. Feel free to come along with this journey. And remember, be good to one another.